or dismissal of the city manager, or to hear complaints or charges against the city manager.
At this time, I make a motion for the city attorney and the city manager to take action regarding 5.1. 6.1.
There is a motion made by Councilman Fuentes. Do I have a second? Second by Councilwoman Morones. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. We go to item 6.2, consideration and action to adopt a preliminary resolution 489 for the removal of the city manager.
I make a motion that we approve and adopt the preliminary resolution number 489 for the removal of the city manager.
I second.
The motion is made to adopt resolution 489 by Councilwoman Morones, a second by Councilman Fuentes. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. We go to item 6.3, consideration and action regarding cause number 15-005-12601-DCU-AJA, styled Adrian De Leon, Ramiro Salinas, Ricardo Martinez Jr., plaintiffs, contestants versus Dina Ojeda Valderas, Oscar E. Puente, Sofia Morones, City of Carrizo Springs, Texas, and Melissa Guerra in her official capacity as City Clerk of Carrizo Springs, Texas, Elections Administrator, defendants, contestees in the 365th Judicial Court of Dimmitt County, Texas.
I make a motion that we don't take any action at this time.
Motion is made by Councilwoman Morones for no action. A second.
I second.
Second is by Councilman Fuente. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. We go to item 6.4, consideration and action regarding cause number 15-05-12-595-DCV-AJA, Francisco Ponce versus the City of Carrizo Springs and Brenda Campione as the city manager of the City of Carrizo Springs in the 365th Judicial District Court of Dimmitt County.
At this time, I'd like to direct the city attorney to give us a little bit of information on 6.4.
That's the lawsuit that was filed against the city when the city attempted to remove the municipal judge from his position prior to his term expiring. I am the attorney representing Judge Ponce. He will now seek other counsel, and I will be withdrawing as his lawyer. But at this time, no action is required until such time as the withdrawal and substitution takes place and a decision is made as to how to resolve the case. I recommend that no action be taken.
I will take consideration of the word and make a motion that no action be taken on item 6.4. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Fuentes. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
One abstain, Ms. Morones. Motion is carried. We go to 6.5, consideration and action regarding the Garcia and Wright engineering contract and issues related to the City of Carrizo Springs sewage plant and/or wastewater operations. At this time, I would like Mr. Maldonado to elaborate on this issue, please.
Mayor and Council, late in, well, it's been about a year and a half, Garcia and Wright was hired by the city to prepare all of the designs and specifications for improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. They completed all of their work, and the project was ready for bid letting about a year ago. The project, as I understand, is funded by the USDA. The loan was approved. However, there were a few outstanding issues that had to be addressed by the city and beyond the control of Garcia and Wright. The city, as I've been told, and has been determined, confirmed by Garcia and Wright, the city took no action to resolve those issues that were outstanding in order to close the loan. No more contact was made between the city and Garcia and Wright throughout the rest of 2014. So he took the position that he was going to sue the city for the work that he had done, which I believe exceeded $300,000. Mr. Garcia did do the work that he was contracted to do. And it was ready once the loan was closed to be let out for bids, so the improvements could be made. My recommendation to the council is to, in order to avoid the lawsuit for the work that's already been done, and because the project had already been funded, that you move forward with the contract so that the city can close on the loan, do whatever needs to be done so the improvements can be made to the wastewater treatment plant as soon as possible to get us back in compliance with TCEQ, and that we continue with the contract with Dutch Main Right. We do two things. One, they've already done the work. We won't have to pay to have it done again. We avoid the lawsuit for work that's already been done. And more importantly, we can simply close up the loan, get funded, and start the improvements as soon as possible. So my recommendation would be that we continue with Garcia and Wright as the engineer for the City of Carrizo Springs wastewater treatment plant approval project.
If I might add to that also, TCEQ has already approved those plans, and so has USDA, which is the loaning agency.
And so if we continue with Garcia and Wright, does that mean that the funding will still be there? Is it going to
The funding is still there. I've
freeze?
spoken with Mr. Ochoa. The funding is there. We're going to have to go back and look for additional funding because the funding that we had at the time, it's been 2 years past. Yeah, so of course the cost estimate has probably gone up by now. So we will look for additional funding to complete the project.
Sorry.
And then we'll be working with us.
Via a loan, we'll look for additional funding via a loan because of the time lapse and cost of.
If I can, Mayor and Council, we're operating under a temporary fix now. It's being monitored by TCEQ, but they're looking for a permanent solution. And they're looking for one as soon as possible. And we're not in enforcement yet. So if we can let them know that we're moving forward and there is light at the end of the tunnel, I think that would be a good thing for the city as we also continue to work with them on the temporary fix that's in place.
It is costing us between $25,000 and $35,000 per week operating the temporary fix that we have. So we're talking about $100,000 per month. A lot of money.
And if we
have no choice.
And if we move forward, then this is going to eliminate that, or is it going to?
No, that will be there until the completion of the new wastewater plant. It'll probably be a year and a half before it's complete, from the time that they start. That's how long it takes.
Don't be complete in a year and a half.
But we're also looking at ways to get a less expensive temporary fix in place that TCEQ will approve. It'll be a fraction of the cost that Mr. Martinez just discussed. So we're working on that as we speak.
I guess that's what I asked. I mean, it's going to be cheaper than what it is right now. Once we approve them and they can work with us.
Yes.
If we approve them.
I would need a motion for item 6.5.
I make a motion that we approve, that we continue with Garcia and Wright as engineering contract.
Motion is made by Councilman Morones. Do I have a second?
Hey, second?
Seconded by Councilman Fuentes. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. We go to item 6.6, consideration and action regarding the LNV engineering contract and issues related to the City of Carrizo Springs sewage plant and or wastewater operations.
I recommend no action. As I understand, there's been new information that has just come to our attention that needs to be looked into. So we'll have a recommendation at the next council meeting.
I make a motion that we take no action at this time.
Motion is made by Councilwoman Morones. Do I have a second?
Hey, second?
Seconded by Councilor Fuentes. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Mayor, may I ask one more question on 6.5? On 6.5 matters, can you keep us informed, like whether it's in a special meeting or regular meeting, on the progress of that? I mean,
Yes, I will.
on that one, please, on Garcia and Wright and
Yes.
the findings and the timeline and cost.
We'll get you that.
Please. Thank you.
So the vote for 6.6 has been approved, a 3-0 vote. We go to item number 7, city manager's report. A, bank balances as per June 22nd, 2015.
When I was appointed as the interim city manager, I asked the auditors, a firm of Carrizo Gonzalez and Associates, that I needed an analysis of the bank statement as of June 22nd, 2015. What you have there behind the cover letter, or the accounts, the balance per the bank and the general balance that we have on our books, and it also states the last reconciliation of what the city had done, for the last month that they had reconciled the bank statements in there. So you go down to the last column, you're right in there. A lot of them fall into the June of 2004. That was the last time that bank reconciliations were done. All right? And so we have been working for the last 2 weeks, especially with the general fund. We're on to the water fund, and we're reconciling everything that we're able to, And so it's taken a lot of our time, but it's necessary in order for us to put that budget together.
So June 2014 bank, they weren't reconciled?
They were not reconciled. They have not been reconciled.
All accounts or just
Well,
individual?
those that are indicated on the right-hand side column. Right. You have the month and the year. So those are what we're working with right now.
So the bank balances is what's indicated right here?
The bank balances is, yeah, the bank balances is what the bank has, on their bank statement.
Correct.
The general ledger bank balances are the ones what we have here. So sometimes you're going to see a difference in there because they have not been reconciled. So you're going to see different amounts from one column to the other column. They should all be matching together. Right?
May I make a comment, Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
I know that Ms. Bettina has been working very hard on this. I know that her office, her staff, and the whole, you and her.
Yes.
But is there a particular reason why they were not reconciled in 2014?
I have no idea. When I came in here, 2 days after I came in here, Ms. Diaz has been out. She has an accident. She has not returned to work. And so she's been out, and so we've been having to call her on a daily basis sometimes in order to get information so that we can get what we need in order to continue reconciling the bank statement. Why they weren't done? A reason she gave us was that when she took over, the finance director at that time had not reconciled, and so obviously when she came in October, regardless of what had been done in the past, they should have continued in trying to reconcile bank statements from the time that they weren't, in order to be able to see what the actual cash balances were. That wasn't done. And so I really can't give you an answer as to why they didn't do it.
Is there a timeline on how long it would take to?
It's been a very slow process because their checks or deposits that were not debited to the general ledger of credit.
I do commend her effort because I know that it takes time.
Sure.
It takes time to look at all the
It takes a lot of
records,
time.
accounts, especially when we have this many accounts. I know it's not an agenda item, Commissioner Bobby, but if I could just make a suggestion, is that allowable? No?
No.
No?
If it's not on the agenda,
Okay.
we're not discussing it.
Just for us to look at those accounts closely. Okay.
Sure. I mean, we're looking at them very closely. I know that they were doing many other things, but the finance director's job is to make sure that they're reconciled, that the city's finances, are up to par, and making sure that the funds are spent wisely. If not, to report to the council. That wasn't done.
May I ask him a question regarding his presentation?
If it's the bank balances or the
Yes,
city
bank
budget
balances.
schedules.
It's all bank balance and bank schedule. I see here that you have all these accounts, right? And it says here 17 active accounts, according to your document.
Yes.
At any time, do you plan to make it all in one and then just use subcodes or codes? Or do you continue?
No,
17
because some of them have to be separated.
Some do, but do all of them?
Under the governmental accounting, you have to separate those accounts because you have to operate them separately to know where you're at on a month-to-month basis. You cannot commingle all the accounts.
Okay, so
Otherwise, you're going to be lost.
One fund and then have all your subcodes, have all your
All the
codes saying.
general fund,
Okay.
all the revenues, all the accounts, expenditure accounts, you know. So at the bottom, you know, as you go through July through June of the following year, you're able to follow the revenues on a month-to-month basis. You commingle all the accounts, general water and gas, that you don't know, you know, where they belong to. That's why they have to be separated.
Well, I know we're gonna go into our budget, but by then, all the accounts should be reconciled?
I don't think so. It's been a very slow process. It took them 2 weeks to do the general fund, and we barely started on the water fund, and we were running into issues with that. So if there were deposits or checks that weren't posted, then we're having to post that. And so, you know, hopefully when Ms. Diaz comes back, and she'll be able to help us, and if we have any questions, we can proceed a little faster than what we're doing now. For us, we're in the dark. I mean, we're going in there, we're trying to do the best that we can, and we're looking for checks, we're looking for deposits that are missing, so that, you know, we're depending on the bank statements from the bank, and we can find them in the city books, then we know that they weren't posted, so we're having to post from the bank statements to the journal entries.
You have some accounts.
It's I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours.
Well, you have some accounts that haven't been reconciled since June 2014.
Exactly. And there are questions that I have. For instance, if you go all the way down to the bottom, to the 2000 W&G meter, what it actually is, it's a bond issue that was passed in 2014. And you can see the difference between what's in the bank and what they say the general ledger has here, you know, 1,272.50. And they have here that we have a balance of 138,000, which is not the case, because when I look at the bank statements, all we have is 1,200. So there's a big difference in there, something that is not being posted. So, and this is a very small account. So when we get to it, we're gonna probably in a day be able to reconcile that. We know where the monies were spent. But those are the kind of challenges that we're moving through right now.
Okay. My next question is based on this.
Yes.
And you can stop me at any time on this one. So you said that you're looking for documents, you're looking for deposits and all that, so you can reconcile, so you can balance your books. Does that include the receipts and all that on a timely manner? Is there a certain procedure you have? If anyone that goes to spend something that they submit?
No, not receipts. We're talking about checks.
Like anything.
We're talking about checks
and
and deposits.
So you have everything that you need. You just have to look for it, you think?
We don't have everything that we need, such as, you know, when you make a deposit, you keep a copy of that deposit. If we can't find a deposit, we have to depend on the bank statement, because they're posted, and that's what we use. If we can't find it in the general fund, then that means that it wasn't posted, so we have to get it from the bank statement and post it into the general fund. That's what we're doing. We're cross, you know, checking, referencing, you know, one to the other.
Any more questions?
Any more questions?
We'll go to item B.
Right?
You still have something? for
No,
us?
no, that's fine.
Okay, we'll go to item B, city budget schedule.
As I mentioned, the process has been real slow with information that we have been able to come across in order to do my budget. I think I have enough information right now, but I have been going through some of the items. I had to bring back the consultant that the city was using in order to format, you know, the way I wanted the accounts to come out, so that I would be able to read it, you know, from July through June. You know, it wasn't, they weren't doing that before. And so that has been done in the general fund. Going, you know, from the department of the city clerk's department, you know, and not going all the way down to legal auditing and consultants. I think the legal, we spent like $235,000 on legal. On auditing, $105,000. On consultants, close to $100,000. And so
In
those,
a year? And
a year,
months,
that's
or
a year. That's a fiscal year, you know, from July through June. That's how much they had spent, you know, way over the budget amounts that were in the budget themselves. And so, you know, I will be making some changes as we move through the budget schedule here. I'm hoping to have some kind of a workshop late July. Once I do that, and we go through the budget, preliminary budget that I'll have for you all, then we can set a date to have a public hearing, and then for the approval of the budget. But I'm probably looking at maybe the first, second week in August before we can approve the budget.
And there's not a certain requirement or a certain time that we do it by a certain date?
It's already passed it. Budget should have been done by 6:30.
By 6:30. So then
Yes.
we are okay still if we do it?
We have no choice, we're already
We
passed
just gotta do it?
Yes, we just have to do it. We have to have something in paper as to our finances and our expenditures for the year.
May I ask you?
We
the
need to
budget
acknowledge, you
process?
know, what kind of funding we have, so that we're able to put in those figures for expenditures, how much we're able to fund each department.
Your budget workshop, is that 1 day, 2 days? I mean,
That's a 1 day.
It's a 1
It's
day?
a 1 day. It's a 1 day.
Okay.
One.
And then the public hearing and then approval of the budget?
Sure. So as we're moving with the budget, you know, I'll keep in touch with the council and inform them, you know. If I'm able to do it before, then, you know, we'll move the schedule forward. And get a budget, you know, adopted. That'll be it.
No, thank you.
We'll go to item number 8, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion is made by Councilwoman Morales to adjourn, seconded by Councilman Olson. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned at 6:45. Thank you.
By the way, Mario, the budget was terminated, was finished, just to let you know. And I haven't heard anything about my grievances, okay?
Budget we have.
Stop being.
The budget was not completed. We don't have a budget in place. So, just let you know. Fine.
Thank you.